talk about the glaciers, we only see that they are melting, as the media reports, as in the media, we know that they are melting and they're melting at an alarming rate. So, what is this Karakoram anomaly, and why some of the glaciers are resisting and not melting at the rate that we kind of know of?
So thank you, Mr. Tanvi, for having me here, and I really thank you and Prasar Bharati for this talking in our research, which was published by us recently, and it's largely work of my PhD student, Akib, who is also with us today. So coming to your question, this is what we are also trying to look at, that how to address those things. And this is a very interesting topic because yeah, you very well know that all our perennial rivers, they originate from Himalayas and larger Karakoram region. So the maintenance and sustenance of or establishment of these glaciers are of paramount importance to us. Several studies have already reported about this, and largely from the glaciologist perspective. Most of the glaciologists, I'm not a glaciologist, we are basically a meteorologist, so we look from the climate perspective. And they all have reported that last 2 decades or so, even in IPCC this has gone, that the glaciers in this area are slightly, in some pockets, they are showing a resistance towards the warming. And not receding, either they are stable or they are surging. So what we try to look into these things, that what is the climatic factor, because which is controlling all those things. So in that we started looking into the things, and one of the things which is most important is the winter precipitation, or which we largely in our local language call western disturbances, because these western disturbances or these precipitation systems coming from the west, and that's why we call them as a western disturbances. And they are largely tropical, extra tropical cyclones, or something like that. There are several definitions which we call them, and these, they have the main source of precipitation in that area, and that source is also the snowfall, the solid precipitation, which we call, because rainfall is liquid. So solid precipitation, which normally comes from November to even up to April, May. Even western disturbance come in other season also, but it comes north of Himalaya, not south of Himalayas. So, and their contribution, the solid precipitation contribution, is around 65% with this seasonal snowfall with the western disturbances. So what I'm talking about, giving you a number, is that it's a big number. Out of your 100 units, 65 units are coming from the western disturbances for your seasonal snow accumulation. And all these ice mass, these are only maintained by the snow which falls there, and then only the glaciers over a period of long period of time will come and sustain. That's the one thing which keep them there. And another is that we have also find out that the 60% of the glacier mass balance is also maintained by the snowfall. In another study, we have shown that the glacier mass balance variability is largely dictated by the snowfall parameter, apart from other parameters. So snowfall is of paramount importance, and this snowfall is governed by the western disturbances, in which 65% is coming from there.
As a layman, we just want to understand that if at one hand we're talking about this extensive melting and everything, there's some of the pockets that are resisting this. So why particularly you chose this area of subject to do your research, and while researching, were you as much curious as I am right now to understand that what is actually going on in our environment?
Basically, to your answer about the curiosity. So, as I said earlier as well, that this whole idea was the brainchild of Dr. Pankaj Mohan. Like about 3 years before, he gave me an idea that, okay, we have seen some studies which are reporting that some glaciers of Karakoram are basically either stable or surging, and they're not melting. Most of the glaciers around the globe and even in Himalayas, they are melting under the impacts of global warming. But few glaciers are not melting and what could be the reason. So various studies have been done before that. It's not that this is the first study on Karakoram anomaly. Previous studies have also reported various other factors, most of them which touched the parameter of temperature. None of the studies touched the importance of precipitation in maintaining the anomaly. So why we are touching precipitation is because precipitation is very important for determining the mass balance of the glaciers. Mass balance is nothing but the amount of snowfall which comes on a glacier and the amount of melt which goes out. So it's basically the difference of accumulation minus the ablation. So if there is an increase in the accumulation, there is high chances that the mass balance might go beyond the positive, or you can say go towards the positive side. A positive mass balance will basically mean a surging glacier. The mass balance of zero will mean it's a stable glacier. So what we did, we quantified the amount of snowfall which is falling over the glaciated regions of Karakoram, and we found that in the previous 2 decades, the amount of snowfall is increasing. And at the same time, snowfall from other sources, like as Dr. Pankaj Kumar pointed that 65% of snowfall comes from western disturbances, but there are other sources as well. The amount of snowfall from other sources, the 35%, they have decreased. So ultimately, we have to say that the amount of snowfall which is increasing from WDs coincides with the concurrent decrease in the snowfall from other sources, and that's why. And it also coincides with the anomaly period, the period which we can see the anomaly peaked. So this is what caused the curiosity. Okay, there must be some kind of connection between the western disturbances and this anomaly because it cannot be just a coincidence. And that is how this whole idea came up. And of course, the result which I'm told is basically the results of our study. It was not earlier, everything was in our mind, but ultimately we did our work. It was a rigorous study, and we came on to these results, and the results are here to be shown.
Sir, like, how much time did it first take to complete the whole study? And then what were the challenges that you have encountered while pursuing such study? So this question is basically important for all the people who are aspirants who want to pursue research. They should know that what actually a study goes through. It's just not the final outcome that comes in the highlight, in the main spotlight, but just the work that goes behind. So, what were the challenges that came across
So
here?
thank you for this question. It's a really nice question. People usually don't touch these things. So my point is that Aki already highlighted that it has been nearly 3 years, and obviously in between there was a COVID period also. And since it's a high data mining thing, I will try to give you an idea that we have processed data literally in I don't know, in petabytes, I think. So this much data, it needs to be processed. We need high computing facility to run all those systems, and it's a global high resolution data sets. And apart from that, several skills has to be developed. Like you have to develop a tracking algorithm, technically, which in principle the tracking algorithm was available with the University of Reading. We get in touch with them, and we try to get their algorithm and try to make it regionally compatible to our part of world, and learn that algorithm. And it's a really very tedious thing, and then running this tracking algorithm has the potential to track the WDs. So once only you can identify all the WDs which happened, because this study happened over I think 40 years, 4 decades of a period, and to track all the WDs for 4 decades, it's a very tedious job, because then only you can quantify the contribution of WDs, seasonal contribution of WDs to the region, and also non-WDs things also which are happening, so that you can say that the dependency on the Western disturbances are increasing because non-Western disturbances component is decreasing by 17%, and that also is a good highlight. So the point is that, and even in COVID time, he has worked from the excuse me, from the home we have network, and also he did all this connect to our network and work all those things. So it's a rigorous exercise which he did, a lot of effort of several hours per day, and data mining was the biggest task, and getting all the algorithms working, that was the gigantic task, and then needing all those facility to run those systems, that took quite a long time actually. But good thing is that this has worked out, and as we initially we conceptualized this project, that it's the way it worked out like that only.
I will like
Uh,
to add one thing here.
yeah.
One very important thing is that the region, this Karakoram region, there is hardly any observational data sets available.
Yeah, good.
So what we have to work with was the next best thing available, and those are the global reanalysis data sets. Initially, we did the work for only one global reanalysis data set, but then we found out that there could be some uncertainties in the results, and we just cannot sit on the results of one data set to show our results. So that's why we went on and did the same analysis for three different data sets, and that basically means we have to do all the work almost thrice. So it took three more, like thrice the time which we earlier thought, and that is why the data became so huge, and the time, the simulations, everything was very huge, and it was a very vigorous work in the fact that not only the simulation, also the maintaining the outputs, whatever outputs we got, we have to maintain those outputs. Then we have to filter out the things which we don't need, and then figuring out what is the best possible things which we can show. Is It was a tedious task.
One search that propped and topped the chart of Google was, why do even glaciers matter? Like, what if one day we wake up and we see all of that is like melted, all gone? So I know it's just a very layman question to answer, even, but I think it is important to consider. And while we are on this topic, to just go ahead and if one of you can answer this question.
Yeah, that's the most important question, I would say, because then only we are sitting here and talking about these things. Why we worry about melting of glaciers? So obviously, I try to touch those things before I go there. I think one thing which Akib said, I don't know whether how much interesting is this, is that reanalysis data is which he talked about, is the data which is a blended data of satellite products, observations, and model. So it is a best proxy for the observations to study any changes, study in that area or data sparse region, because Himalayas we hardly have any observational network in that area. So then our dependency is on satellite data or these reanalysis product, which the modeling community always uses as a proxy as observations, because that is the best possible observations which we have around. Now coming to your questions, why glaciers are important to us, and then obviously the health of Himalayan glaciers are of paramount importance in Indian context. So especially the millions of people, dwellers residing into the Indo-Gangetic belt, several perennial rivers originate in that areas. Their livelihood, all this all depend upon the water available in that area. Now, all our ecosystem, historical ecosystem, this all developed around these river belts only, which we know from the long time. And in the larger context, or let's say in context of glaciers, if we have these glaciers are melting, so let's say if there is no glaciers in Himalaya, I don't know when, but let's say if there is no glaciers in Himalaya, so then this perennial rivers, all this will be seasonal rivers, because there will be no influx of water. Obviously, at initially some point of time there will be water, but at later stages this will become a seasonal river. So that's obviously is very important for us, for people residing in those areas. And if I think you said that if the glaciers melt, what will happen? I think that's also you said, if I remember correctly, what will happen. This is what you said. So yeah, if technically if the glaciers will melt, this obviously has an impact. Initially, it will have a flooding type of conditions. and then obviously with time it will have a drop type of conditions. If we talk about the whole globe glaciers melt, what will happen? So then in that case, obviously then our sea level will rise. And this is what is we expect. And IPCC report, we all know there are several speculations already around if Greenland will melt, how much there will be several meters of rise. If naturally the way it is going on right now melts, then obviously also we expect a half-meter rise, zero point 0.5 meter by the end of this century. Country and our 12 mega cities in our Indian coast are under vulnerable because of this glacier melt and all the sea level rise. So all those they have a catastrophic effect across the different sectors. So obviously it has a very strong impact. Either you talk about globe or you talk about region.
Sir, we will conclude this session, but I would like to know from you about your future research projects as well. Anything that you're working on, or maybe something that you would like to share on our platform.
Obviously, one thing which Akib, it's Akib PhD thing. So one thing which we are right now working on to the future fate of Himalayan glaciers. So we are doing some right now. We are doing also very handful set of simulations to see that how these anomaly, both we are doing glacier simulations separately, that how the dynamical models will show the glacier progress, and also that this algorithm we are running for future so that we can know that how the western disturbances track and all will change or will be having the potential, and then conclude something yeah, about the glacier health in future as well. That will because this study has been not done for India so far. This is the first time we are trying to attempt those things to talk about future using physical models, and that is one thing. And another thing, obviously, we are working with the my group is largely doing a lot of work on the climate modeling and climate addressing climate extremes. So all major extremes like heat waves or cyclones or floods, extreme precipitations, WDs, all these sectors we are trying to address and see that whether we can quantify these changes and tell in some numbers so that people can really get associated. Everybody knows there is a change, but how much is this change? We can give them some feeling when you talk about with some numbers. Obviously, it is always tricky and tedious to talk about numbers, but at least sometimes it works.
Well, thank you so much, Akib. Anything that you would like to add?
Yeah, so what I can add at the end is since I am working on Karakur anomaly, so one thing I would like the viewers to know that this Karakur anomaly is very unlikely to last for a very long time. Right now, we are seeing that the anomaly exists, but sustaining it in a warming scenario seems highly unlikely right now. Even in the last 3-4 years, the anomaly has considerably slowed down. So we have talked about for the last 4 decades, but the anomaly in the last 3-4 years have shown a slight decrease. And even if we are, since Dr. Pankaj Kumar has mentioned that we are working on the future simulations as well, even in those simulations, it seems that the Karakoram anomaly might just disappear, and the current state of anomaly is basically just delaying the inevitable of the melting of glaciers. So right now, they might be sustaining themselves, but in future, yeah, they might very well melt.
And it is shifting towards east, so it is.
One more point is that the anomaly is also shifting towards other ranges. So it has shifted eastward towards the Kunlun ranges now. So the Kunlun range is basically east of the Karakoram region. And now, since the last 5 to 10 years, we are seeing that even Kunlun ranges are showing some glaciers are showing very similar behavior as of Karakoram anomaly.